Good morning, everyone. Mike Hilgers, Nebraska Attorney General. Thanks for being here. We've got two from the Examiner today. I don't know who's the designated survivor for your team. Reminder, afterwards I'll take questions here, as many questions as you like, on whatever topic we have time for, and then also online in the media advisory. If you want a text message, you can text your questions to Suzanne. We'll take questions at the end. So good morning, everyone. Today we're announcing a landmark lawsuit against Roblox. One of the most important things that we do in this office is we protect kids. We protect kids from predators. We protect kids from online services that would do them harm, that would take advantage of them, and that would exploit them. And Roblox is a company that either facilitates or does all of those things. The lawsuit was filed in Adams County, Nebraska. I'll tell you why here at the end. We filed it within the last hour. So let me give you a little bit of background. You may have heard of Roblox, you may understand what that is. A lot of people have, maybe not everyone understands what it is and what the problems are that are associated with Roblox. So Roblox is an online gaming platform. It's the largest in the world. There are hundreds of millions of active users who use Roblox. You may have seen it if you have kids or nieces or nephews. Roblox, it markets itself as a place where kids can go and play all sorts of different games. The games can be created by other developers, third-party developers, other users. Those games are usually marketed as things that have a lot of educational benefit. Kids can learn math, or they can learn other languages, or they can play Legos with their friends. It's a place where people can dialogue with one another, so you can both communicate via direct message, but you can also communicate via a voice system where people can talk over the network. If that's all that it was, we wouldn't be here today. The problem is that is not how Roblox is constructed. And instead of having the guardrails that we would expect of a company that's focused on actually monetizing directly children, in some cases as young as 4, the guardrails that would be in place to stop predators are nowhere to be seen. And what it has amounted to, I believe, is a playground for predators in Nebraska and around the world. So what are the problems with Roblox? Well, there's really two significant ones. One is something that we've seen in other social media contexts, which is the flooding of inappropriate content to kids. So in TikTok, you may remember when we sued TikTok, the algorithm would show kids as young as 10 or 8 things that would glorify suicide, would help drive suicidal ideation or body dysmorphia, would glorify drug use or pornography, things that are totally inappropriate for kids at that age. That's the kind of things that you can actually find on Roblox. Usually, it's in the context of these experiences. The experiences are really just another name for the game. So someone will develop a game, and then they'll put the game on Roblox, and then the kids can play those particular games. There are experiences on Roblox that are absolutely outrageous. And just to give you a couple of examples, there's an experience, or has been an experience on Roblox, where you can go visit Epstein's Island. There's an experience on Roblox where you can recreate school shootings. There have been experiences on Roblox where you go to KKK rallies or Nazi rallies. There are experiences that are clubs. There are experiences that enable sexual assault or abuse. There was one story of a mother whose 7-year-old daughter, or maybe 7 or 9-year-old daughter, was on a game where her avatar, her physical representation in the online world, virtual representation of her on the online world, was sexually assaulted. So the first thing that is wrong with Roblox is that kids are inundated with terrible content that they shouldn't have. The second is that they are also exposed to predators. And there may be no bigger, more or less secure online playground for predators in the entire world. The stories of these predators are legion. They're all over the place, including Nebraska, where there was someone in Adams County filed a lawsuit last year in federal court discussing his experiences with John Doe, his experience having a predator who groomed him, enticed him, and eventually sexually assaulted him right here in Nebraska. The stories are even worse than that. There's an online group called 764, which is a sadistic hate group, extreme group, that has encouraged young children to kill animals, to commit suicide, to carve usernames into their arms. And some of this is very disturbing, not appropriate for a broader audience. There are online podcasts. There are other resources where you can actually hear audio versions of these clips of these evil people enticing children to do these kinds of things. One place you go to would be the Sean Ryan podcast. There's been a lot around the internet. But I would say user and viewer beware, because this is extremely disturbing. The most evil parts of the human heart are seen in these types of activities. Now, why is this all happening on Roblox? The reason it's happening is because they have not done what they should do, which is put in place the basic security provisions that will ensure that the kids cannot actually be predated or are not exposed to this type of material. Now, they have said, and this is the core of our lawsuit, they have said that they do all these things. And the only reason I brought this sheet with me is I have a quote, 2 quotes of things that they've said online or to parents, and I have 4 young kids, so I'm part of their audience, that are absolutely 100% false. One of the things they say is that they have one of the safest online environments for our users, particularly the youngest users, and they also say they take every precaution possible. Neither of those 2 things are true. And let me just give you a couple key pieces of their platform that don't work the way that we would want them to work if we actually were truly caring about protecting kids. The first is they have no verification system of really any kind. They just started rolling out a facial AI system, which, as we know in the industry, is not something that's on its own, can do really any sort of verification as an independent way of verifying identity. So kids as young as 6 can say that they're 13, 14, get around all the parental control restrictions. Conversely, predators can actually go online if they're 30 and they can say that they're 6. So if you're a 6-year-old, my son's 7. My son could be online on Roblox. It's not allowed or not, but he could. He could play what he thinks is a 7-year-old boy from around the street. And in reality, it could be a 25-year-old man who's there to do him harm. So the first thing is the age verification is the systems are not in place to actually protect kids in that way. The second thing is it's entirely anonymous. Roblox does not actually request anyone's name. There's no way to tie an individual to a specific identity. So even if someone is caught doing something wrong and they get kicked off the platform, they literally can sign it the same day, just with a different username and a different email. And if you are a predator trying to seek out children and do them harm, one of the things that you want is anonymity. So it gives them direct access to children in a way that's very anonymous. In addition, even though Roblox has said that they've done certain things like restrict direct messaging, which is kind of a best practice that you've seen in other social media companies, so that adults can't prey on children, maybe restrict the voice functionality that I told you about before. In the experiences themselves, so say the one in which people could go shoot up children at school, that those restrictions are not in place. So a developer could develop a new game, put it on their system, and they would be able to communicate with adults being on the system, either voice or direct messaging. The games themselves, it is sort of, the developers get to grade their own homework. So when they submit their game to the system to be onboarded, they can say it's available for all ages. And there's no independent verification on the front end by Roblox to say that these programs actually not available, should be seen or used or any way available to kids under the age of 13. After the fact, Roblox might act, but that doesn't absolve any of the harm that these particular experiences can cause. Those are just some of the things and the ways that the Roblox platform could, if they so chose, to actually do the right thing to ensure that kids are safe. Instead, they have created gaping gates through which innumerable predators are going around the country. And by the way, I'm not exaggerating and I'm not being hyperbolic when I talk about the harm that's being caused. There are stories all around the country, including in Nebraska. I mentioned one. There's an Omaha man who is arrested for using Roblox to prey on kids in Florida. This is national, and it is an international playground for predators. This is no exaggeration. Every parent in Nebraska should be aware of the harms of Roblox. The lawsuit we have filed was in Adams County, as I mentioned. One of the questions that sometimes comes up is why the rationale from why we were filing in different places. Really the nexus of the one harm that we know, well, we know there are other harms. I shouldn't say that. Even yesterday we got a call from a teacher talking about the grooming that is happening in their particular school. So it's happening around Nebraska, we believe, but there was a direct harm in Adams County from an individual in Nebraska who's filed suit, and so we thought it was appropriate to file that one particularly there. To give you just a sense of the way that the grooming has worked in other cases that we've seen. If you have, I mentioned a 7-year-old boy, 7-year-old girl who's online, you can pretend, if you're a predator, you can pretend that you're of their age, your age range. One of the things that people will do is they use the online currency. So most apps, most games have online currency. In this context, it's called Robux. Kids want Robux. A lot of kids want Robux. These predators will use that desire for Robux against the children. And so they'll say, we'll give you Robux if you take this conversation offline onto Discord or onto Snap or something like that. We'll give you Robux if you give me a revealing picture. And these kids, who are kids, have their defenses even further lowered because they're thinking they're talking to someone who's of their age and someone that they can trust. And what happens is, after they have their hooks in them, then they can manipulate them to do all sorts of bad things, some of which I've already mentioned, including up to suicide and causing harm to others. It's one of the most egregious examples that we've seen in this space. We've been leading on we've been leading on protecting kids, whether it's social media or in this case, and this is incredibly egregious. And I just want every parent in Nebraska to know that they should be on the lookout to protect their kids. The stories we've heard, by the way, are that this can happen very, very fast. There's one dad who said he was very diligent supervising his children on Roblox, and within hours, he just wasn't around. Within hours, his kid was hooked once he looked back at some of that chat history. And it's just incredible. It's also very difficult to tell sometimes that your kid is even doing, if they're on Roblox, is even doing anything inappropriate, because some of these games look like they're for children. So if you walk by the computer, you're trying to be someone who's actually overseeing what your child is doing, you can actually think that they are on a safe platform when in fact they're in the middle of a conversation with a potential predator. So we filed the lawsuit. We're going to seek any and all damages, including injunctive relief. So we're seeking penalties under our penalty power. We will absolutely seek restitution for customers who have been harmed. I told you Robux, people pay money. I don't think they should be paying money to have their children, their child or someone in their community being harmed. And we will seek injunctive relief, as I mentioned as well. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.